Welcome to part 2 of the video. You continue with the compute button. So I'll come to the compute button and double click. Okay, so let's check the instructions for the compute button. So for the compute button, it says data is entered into the input controls. This includes the lot number, the year, the vehicle model, the checking the wholesale dealer discount control if applicable or appropriate, entering the price, entering the trade in. So the user will enter all of those things and check the check boxes and radio buttons that it wants, that he or she wants. Sorry. So only one extra can be checked at a time, but for the checkboxes, most of them can be checked. So here is where we are concerned with. When the compute button is clicked, your code must do the following things: declare variables and constants as required. So as we keep on coding, we'll be declaring variables and constants along the way. But there is a catch here. We should use a try catch block to catch any exceptions that may occur. So every code that we are going to do, every calculation that we are going to do is going to be within a try catch block. So that is what we are going to do. So the computations we are going to calculate for discount. So it says we should first enforce the business rules. So these are the business rules. So we are going to perform some validations with these business rules. But I'll tackle the business rules, the validations last. So I'll tackle the computations first, and then later we do the validations. So it says we should compute for the wholesale discount using the discount rate when the wholesale discount checkbox is checked. So when that particular checkbox is checked, that is where the discount will be calculated. If it is not checked, the discount will not be calculated. So if that particular checkbox is checked, that is when the discount will be calculated, and then the discount is applied on the price only. So the price only. It doesn't apply to the extras. So the discount is applied on the price only, and it is only applied when that particular checkbox is checked. So when we go to the design, see that this is that particular checkbox. So when this checkbox is checked, the price over here, a discount will be calculated on this price and outputted in this particular text box. So if this one is not checked, it means that whatever price that is given over here, the discount over here is going to be 0 when the compute button is clicked. But if this one is checked, then discount will be calculated on this, and it will be shown in this particular text box when the compute button is clicked. So let's tackle that with our code. So first of all, we need to declare a variable for storing the discount. So I'll declare a variable. Now when I'll declare a variable for storing the discount. So the discount itself, and then we are declaring it as a decimal. Since it will have decimal places, we are declaring it as a decimal. Okay, so I've declared the discount as a decimal, and we also need the price itself. So we need a variable for the price as well. So instead of declaring another one and saying that the price as also decimal, because they are of the same data type, I can do it on one line. So I can bring a comma here and make it price. Then I can take away this particular side because they are of the same data type. Okay, so I have the price, I have the discount. Now when you look at the question, it give us a rate for the discount. Let's check. Where is the table? Where is the Okay, so this is the information. The information says that purchasing wholesale dealer a discount 20% discount. So we can store this 20% as a constant in our program. So we can also declare a constant. So we can store it as a constant. So that is the discount rate. You can use any name that you want. So we are storing the discount rate also as a decimal, and then the value. So because it is a constant, you are giving it a value straightforward. So what value? It is 20%. 20% converted is 0.20. So we have the discount rate. The green lines, don't worry about them. It just means that you have not used them in our code. You have just declared, but you have not used them. So I've declared for my discount and price, and declared for a discount rate as a constant and giving it a value of 0.20. Okay, so what do I do next? From the question, you realize that you are supposed to find discount, and then the discount is calculated 20% of the price that the user will enter here. Now when the user enters here, enters a value here, that value will be stored as a text. So we have to change that particular text into a decimal. Even though we have declared, so when you look at this one, even though we have declared the price over here as decimal, when the user types over here, it is stored as text. So we have to convert it to a decimal before we store it inside this particular variable. So that is where what we are going to do now. So the price over here is equal to, so it's equal to decimal dot pass. So this is what we are using to convert the text into a decimal dot pass. So I bring a bracket, and then what are we converting? We are converting the text that the user entered in this particular text box. So the name of this text box is what? Price text box. So we are converting the text property of this particular text box into a decimal. So I'll go back to my code, bring it inside my bracket. So the price text box dot text. So we are converting the text property of the price text box into a decimal before storing it into the variable called what? Price declared over here. So we are done with that part. Now we do with the calculation. So the discount itself. So the variable that we use here, if you change the name of the variable, that is the same thing that we are supposed to use here. So the discount itself is equal to the price times the rate, the discount rate. So the discount rate times the price will give us the discount itself. So the discount rate was given as a constant here. That is why we are using it as a variable here. If you decide not to use it as a constant here, one way you can do it is to just come here and type 0.20. So this one also works. So you can decide to store this inside a variable, inside a constant, and use the name of the constant over here. You can change this one. The price can come here for the constant to come in. So it can be 0.2 times price, anyway, you still get the same answer. So I'll go by this one. So the price times the discount rate. So we have done the calculation. The next thing is to output it. So the output is going to be stored inside, or is going to be outputted inside this text box. So the name of that particular text box is what? Discount text box. So the discount text box is going to output the answer of the discount. So I'll go back to my code. So the discount text box, the text property of that particular text box is going to be the answer for the discount. So this is how we are going to do it. Let's run the program and see what happens. Okay, so if I type something here, let's say 24,000, and clicks on compute, it calculates what? The discount, and then it displays over here. But note, we didn't go by the instructions of the assignment. You see that this one was not checked, but yes, still the discount showed. So we have to go back and make sure that if this one is not checked, the discount gives us what? 0.00 instead of calculating the discount and placing it here. So let's go and do that quickly. Okay, so this particular calculation will only be done when that particular checkbox is checked. So let's take this one away. You say that if that particular checkbox, so for me, I named it wholesale dealer discount checkbox. That was the name I gave to it. So whatever name you give to it, to this particular control, that is what you are supposed to use. So if that particular checkbox, so if that particular checkbox so if the wholesale dealer discount checkbox is checked, so dot checked, then what should be done? That particular calculation should be done only if that particular checkbox is what? Checked. So what was the calculation? The discount will be equal to the discount rate times what? The price. But what if it is not checked? So what if it is not checked? What happens? So else, so we are using the else part to determine what if it is not checked. So if it is not checked, the discount is going to be 0.00. So if it is not checked, that will be what? The discount. So if it is checked, the discount is going to be the discount rate times the price. But if it is not checked, else the discount is what? 0. Before we display the value of the discount inside what? That particular text box. So let's run it and see. So if I don't check this, I type 24,000, click on compute, see that it is what? 0. But if I check this and click on compute, see that it is calculated as what? 48,000. Okay, so I'm not going to leave this one here. You see that this one is a value. We are going to output it inside this particular text box. So I have to convert this particular decimal back to what? A string. So I have to add dot to string. I forgot to add this, and I format it to N2. N2 means that don't bring any currency and then shorten it to 2 decimal places. So save it. Let's run it again. So I don't check it. Okay, we didn't also check for, we didn't also put it in a try catch block. So 24,000. See that the discount is 0.00, but if I check this one, click on compute, and then the discount is 4,800. Okay, exit button. Yes. Okay, so you have to also put our code inside the try catch block. I forgot to do that one, so let me copy all these, cut it instead. So I'll cut it. Shortcut for cut is Control X. So try, paste my code here, and then I display a message box. Try catch block is something we have done, so so message box. So just like we designed the message box at the top, so this message box, the message will be contact admin. Give it a title of error, and then the button to display is OK, and then the icon is an error. Okay, so this is okay. All right, so we have placed our code inside the try catch block. Let's move on to the next instruction. So we are done with the discount. Let's look at the, okay, so we are going to tackle the extras. So we are done with the discount, we are tackling the extras. Let's look at how we are going to do it. So for the extras, we have a table for the extras. For the exterior extras, we have the paint touch, which is 250, the undercoat, which is 300, and both is what, 550. So we can decide to store this particular value in a variable or in a constant, because we know the value. We are going to store this in a constant, store this in a constant. We can also decide to store this in another constant, or we can leave this particular one so that when we want this value, we can just say that this one plus this one to get that particular. So we can store these two inside a constant. We can also store this in a constant, this one and another constant, this one another constant, and this one another constant. So we are storing all these inside a constant. So let's do them quickly. Okay, so come here, constant. So the first constant is paint touch. So paint touch, storing at a decimal. Then the value is 250.0. The next constant is underquote. As decimal. Then the value is 300. The next constant, tires, which is 450. And a constant for HD radio, which is also 190.95. The next constant is also GPS, as the small, which is also 700. Then the last constant, which is floor mats, that is also 55. So I have my constants, all my constants set up. Okay. So let me make this bigger now. Okay. Okay, so let's look at how to deal with the calculation of the extras. So we have two different extras. You have the exterior extras and then we have the accessory extras. You realize that for the exterior extras, only one can be selected at a time because of it being a radio button. So if this one is selected, then the exterior extras, the value for the exterior extras should be in accordance with the price of the paint touch-up. So I have to declare a variable for storing the value for exterior extras. So a variable for exterior extras, so that when any one of these is clicked, that particular value will be stored in that particular variable. So that is what I'm going to do now. So I'll go back to my code. Because it is also decimal, I'll add it to this one. So I'll add exterior extras. Okay, so I'll come back to my code. Still at the compute button. So still within the try catch block. So I'll say that if the paint touch up radio button, if that particular radio button is checked, so if that particular radio button is checked, what should happen? The exterior extras, so the variable I declared over here, that particular exterior extras should be equal to this particular constant, the pinned touch. So if that pinned touch radio button is selected, the exterior stress should be equal to what? That pinned touch. So pinned touch. So I'll bring an else if to also tackle if the undercoat is selected. So else if the undercoat radio button is checked, so then what should happen? Then the exterior stress should rather be equal to what? The undercoat value that I gave at the top. So if the pinned touch up radio button is checked, then the exterior stress, that variable over here, should be equal to the pinned touch. But if the undercoat, else if the undercoat radio button is checked, then that exterior stress should not be the pin touch, but it should be what? The undercoat, the value for the undercoat that we gave here. I'm moving another else if, because there's another one for the both too. So else if the both radio button, so there's a both radio button, that particular radio button is checked. So if that particular radio button is checked, what should happen? The exterior stress should be equal to, since I didn't declare any constant for the both, then I can now say that it should be equal to the pinned touch plus the undercoat. So if I had declared that another constant to be both and given it a value, then I would have said the exterior stress is going to be that particular constant. But since I didn't declare it, then the exterior stress is going to be the pinned touch plus the undercoat. Aside all these, there's a none button that can be checked. So aside all these, the exterior button, the exterior stress is supposed to be what? 0.00. So if the pinned touch is checked, then this will be the answer for exterior stress, the pin touch. If the undercoat radio button is checked, then the exterior stress is going to be what? The value for the undercoat. If both radio button is checked, then the exterior stress is going to be the pinned touch plus what? The undercoat. That will be for the exterior stress. But if none of these happens, then the exterior stress is going to be what? 0.00. So that is the logic that we have applied here. Now after doing that, we now have our exterior stress value. The next thing that we are going to, the next extra type of stress that we are going to tackle is the accessory stress. For the accessory stress, we can select multiple values. So we are not going to use the if else if block. What we are going to use is a simple if. So we use a simple if to tackle each of them, and then we make sure that we accumulate the values. So we are going to accumulate the values if multiple values are checked. Then we store that answer in the accessory stress. Okay, so we go back to our code, still at the try block. So this time around, we have to also declare a variable for the accessory stress. So accessory stress. So we are using the simple if. So if, let's look at the first checkbox. The first checkbox is what? What name did I give it? I think I gave it ties. Go to the properties. So I gave it so let me change the name to tires instead of tiles. Where is the name? So tires. Okay, so I'll come back to my code. So if that particular checkbox, so the tires checkbox is checked, then what will happen? Then the accessories how did I spell the accessories? ACCE then the accessory stress is equal to, since it is going to be an accumulation, then I have to do this again. Accessory stress plus, so if the tires checkbox is checked, since I've declared a variable for the tires, then I'm going to add plus what? Tires. So if that one is checked, then the tires will be added towards the accessories stress and then stored in that particular variable. So if the other checkbox, which is HD radio, so HD radio, so if HD radio checkbox, if that one is also checked, then what happens? Again, the accessories, the accessory stress is going to be that same accessory stress plus the radio. What name did I give it? The constant over here, I gave it HD radio. So the constant I gave here was what? HD radio. So plus the HD radio. So the same logic, if what is the third one? The GPS, the built-in GPS. So if the built-in GPS checkbox is checked, then what happens? The same logic, the accessories stress is going to be that accessories stress plus, what constant did I give for the GPS? I gave it a GPS. So when you look at the constant here, I gave it a name to be what? GPS, which is 700. So plus what? The GPS. Then the last checkbox, if, what's the last checkbox? Floor mats. So if floor mats checkbox dot checked, then the same accessory stress, that same accessory stress plus Okay, so what constant did I give to the floor mat, which is 55. So floor mat. Done with that part 2. So now let's come to the form. So we have gotten the answer. If this one is checked, it will be stored in a variable called exterior stress. If multiple ones are checked, they will be added together and stored in a variable called accessory stress. But the two answers should also be added together and outputted in this particular text box. So the two answers will be added together and outputted in this particular text box. So what was the name of this text box? Stress text box. So I'll go back to my code. Let me take this output over here. So I'm cutting it from here. I'm bringing it down here. So I'll say that the stress text box. So the text property of that stress text box is going to be, so to avoid anything, I'm going to add the two values and also store it inside a particular variable. So I'm going to come to my declarations over here. I'm going to add another one and call it stress, or let me call it total stress. So I'll call it total stress. So I'll come here and I'll say that total stress is equal to the exterior stress plus the accessories stress. So the two calculations are added together and stored over here. Then we output the value inside this into this particular text box, so which is equal to the total stress, and then we have to convert it to a string. We use the same N2. So let's try it and see. Okay, so I'll check this 16250, click on compute. So we have 3250. Since it's set to none, that is what we got. Let's set this to paint and click compute again. See that we got 250. Let's set it to this. We got the stress to be what? 300, because we have not checked any of these. Click on this, click on compute. We got the stress as what? 550. Now we click on this one, or let's select none and select this one only. So you see that we got a value of what? 450. When I added this one, click on compute, it added the two of them. So if I add this one, click on compute, it added the three of them. If I take this one away, click on compute, this one is subtracted, so it added only the two. When I add this one, click on compute, then it adds the underquote plus all these and then outputs them here. So we are done with the stress. I can now exit my application. Okay, so you continue to the next part in a different video.